Sit up straight, pull those shoulders down and back. How many of us have heard that cue before? And unfortunately, while most of us believe it's the ticket to better posture, it's actually bad advice and it's causing just as many problems as it's meant to solve. Today we're going to talk about why that is, and I'm going to give you an exercise you can do to start actually improving your shoulder and upper back stability and posture right away. I'm Griffin from the North Star Body with your solutions to the breathing and movement dysfunctions that could be causing your stress, anxiety, joint pain, and just getting in the way of your active and happy life. So let's get right into it. This classic cue, shoulders down and back. Look, it's just a correction to the position that most people find themselves in, especially if they work a desk job. It's well-meaning, and a lot of people who recommend it don't really know any better. So it's not that people are trying to ruin your posture, they're just trying to go from here and pull you in the other direction. But the problem is, being stuck here is no better than being stuck here. They're just two sides of the same coin. We want to be able to access both positions, but we don't want to be in an extreme on either side. So people tell you to do this in everyday life just to fix your posture, but they also tell you to do it if you come from a fitness background and you've worked with a strength coach. They'll tell you to pin the shoulder blades down and back, squeeze them together. Maybe if you're holding a bar, they'll tell you to bend the bar and rotate these arms outward. And that's just to eliminate the variability of movement during these traditional lifts. But remember that moving in real life is much different than working traditional strength training, and the shoulders behave a lot differently. So let's talk about why this actually ends up as a problem. I think we know, it's 2024 when this video is being recorded. We've all heard about this posture, why it's bad for you, so we don't have to go into that. But why is the opposite bad for us? Well, you know me, I'm going to start with breathing because it's the foundation of absolutely everything. And so the diaphragm, the big breathing muscle underneath our ribs, when we inhale and it contracts and it expands, it's not just in the front, it's not just in the belly. So you can imagine if I'm stuck in this position, I can breathe and my belly can come out when I breathe, and when I exhale it comes back in. But what about the rest? You see, the diaphragm is actually a dome shape. And in order to create the appropriate amount of pressure inside of the abdominal cavity, the diaphragm has to be able to expand in all directions. So when I breathe in, my ribs go like this and like this. Now what happens if I'm stuck here? Well, you can see that all of this tissue is now compressed. So I don't get a lot of movement in the back. So my diaphragm is able to expand this way and maybe a little bit out to the sides, but it's not really able to expand very much in the back. So that means the amount of pressure is going to be uneven, and it's going to give me more of a risk of instability of the spine and just less control, less ability to manage impact or whatever it is I'm doing. Number two is that if you notice the position of my ribs, when I tilt back, I'm actually not getting true extension of the upper back. So if I'm trying to fix a rounded upper back, I can still have a rounded upper back, and if I shove this back, I'm actually not really extending at the upper back. It's more the mid to low back. And so nothing's changing where I need it to change, but the ribs start to pop up. And when the ribs get stuck in this position, it's really hard for me to take a full exhale and allow the ribs to close back down so that I can take a good inhale again. I can't take a good inhale unless I'm able to take a good exhale. And so when my ribs are stuck in what's called hyperinflation, or they're stuck in an inhaled position, and they don't come back down because I'm pinned in shoulders down and back, then I'm not going to be able to feel like I can get a full inhale because I haven't been able to complete the exhale cycle. So you can see just for breathing alone how important it is to have space in the back and to not shove things back and down the same way we wouldn't want to shove everything forward. Now for movement, I want to make it very clear. Traditional lifting does not mimic, or oftentimes does not support, I think there is a little carryover, but in general, it doesn't really support true human dynamic movement. And the foundation for dynamic movement is the gait cycle, or the walking and running pattern. So I want to show you what happens with the arm swing during a run if I have my shoulders down and back versus if my shoulders are in a more neutral position. If I'm running and my shoulders are down and back and I swing my arms, notice how my rib cage stays exactly where it is. And I'm going to show you from this angle too. So I squeeze these down and back. Now as I run, the arms move, the body doesn't really move. So my question is, what is the point of the arm swing if not to move the body? Well, there is none, really, other than to move the body. So we have to understand that the pecs, the chest muscles, and the lats, those armpit muscles that wrap all the way down the back, their job isn't just to push and pull. Their job is to keep the shoulders stable from all sides during dynamic movement. So watch now as my shoulders are a little bit more neutral and I feel both sides working to keep the shoulders in place. As I swing the arms, now it takes the rib cage with it because it's more or less stuck to the rib cage. If I let the shoulder blades squeeze down and back, they're sort of disconnected from the rib cage, which means that I can swing the arms and the shoulder blades can kind of flop around without actually taking the rib cage with it. So as I teach the shoulders to stabilize, I get better rotation of the rib cage and better rotation of the spine. So how do I do that? Well, you're going to need 2 small water bottles or 2 small thermoses filled about halfway with water. Now, before I get into this, I need to tell you that this is not super straightforward. So I always recommend hiring a coach or checking out the One-of-a-Kind Fitness 8-week foundations course. A lot of gold in there, and you get a little bit more detailed instruction on how to do this movement. What you can also do is just keep coming back to this video, keep experimenting, keep dialing in the details, but just know that it's not like oh, I've got it the first time. These details can be really complicated, and there's so many different moving parts to the shoulder that it just takes a little while, so don't get frustrated with yourself. But to start to feel it, you're going to stand up. Now, I'm going to show you sitting down so you can see my body better, but you're going to stand up and you're going to root your feet into the ground with the toes pointing more or less straight ahead. Now, I want you to grab your thermoses or water bottles that are half full of water, and I want you to start to turn the thumbs down and pinkies up. So you get a little internal rotation of the shoulder. At the same time, I want you to see if you can feel those shoulder blades spreading apart, but without rounding on your spine. So using a camera or a mirror is really helpful for this. Okay, so what I don't want is this, but I also don't want this like we just talked about. I want to turn them in, I want to get my spine long toward the sky, and I want to feel those shoulder blades spread. Now, if you're doing this right, you should be able to flex the chest muscle and the lat muscle, the armpit, at the same time and use them to lock those shoulders into place. Once you feel that, you're just going to make circles toward the inside, sloshing that water around for as long as you can, up to 2 minutes if you can do it. When you're done with that, you're going to feel that the chest and the lats are working together to keep that shoulder stable during movement. And that's what we want to train it to be able to do. At the same time, you're maintaining a long spine and you're breathing expansively in all directions of the belly, low back, and all around the rib cage. When you fatigue these muscles and you work on this over and over again, the body starts to learn a more stable position to hold the shoulders in, and you start to gain a little more extension of that upper back and a little bit more broadness of the rib cage and the shoulder blades without having to sacrifice the space you need on either side.